Well, it's wonderful to see so many familiar faces as well as a few new ones. So welcome. We're Born Digital. I think most of you know most of us, although again, there may be a few new faces here. We're delighted to have such an excellent crew of developers and project managers and metadata specialists. What is it that we do? We do a lot of Islandora. About 80% of our projects are Islandora. And in the last year or so, we've also started doing a bit of archipelago work. We still support our Islandora 7 sites, but only for a few more months. We've really had to decide how we were focusing our effort, and we decided to lean forward rather than lean back and look to try to get everybody that we could into the newer platforms. We offer migrations as well as training support and maintenance as well as custom development. I would say right now we are doing mostly migrations with a little bit of custom development. But we're finding that Islandora 2.0 has the core feature set that most of our clients are looking for. So when we're doing custom development now, most of the time it's for bespoke features for the institution rather than for large gaps between Islandora 7 functionality and Islandora 2.0. And then we do long-term maintenance and support. So I'll talk about where we do our installs and how in a little bit. But part of our business model is to be a long-term partner for institutions. So we'll set the software up, and then we're happy to maintain it and provide support for many years to come. With hosting, so our niche is that we're delighted to come in and install Islandora or Archipelago in whatever data center you prefer. So we're happy to install into cloud environments, and we also are happy to install into institutional data centers. We actually don't provide managed hosting right now. This is something we're looking at, a SaaS platform, software as a service platform. But we do manage maintenance and support for hosted platforms, a number of different providers and institutional data centers. How do we do that? We use ISLE. So we were involved in creating the first ISLE, the Islandora 7 version of ISLE, and then in the conversion or the re-implementation of the same ideology for Islandora 2.0. We really believe that almost everything in a server situation should be running out of Docker. And it makes it so that we can maintain a couple of dozen sites fairly efficiently for our clients. Our approach to Fedora in Islandora 2.0 is that it's optional. Most of our projects to date have included it and have been specifically looking for that. But if you do not need it or want it, it does add to the complexity of Islandora, and it can be omitted without feature loss, other than obviously the Fedora related aspects of an Islandora repository. Another really big piece of our toolbox is Workbench. Pretty much everything in our workflow with Workbench, especially coming out of Islandora 7 and into Islandora 2.0. So we use the Workbench functionality to dump content out from Solar. Then we work with our clients to clean up their metadata and optimize it, and then reformat those sheets to come into Islandora 2.0, again, using Workbench. The way we work, and this is available on the website, and I'll distribute these slides afterward. But the way we work is sort of a modified agile approach. There is inherent in the nature, especially in migrations, of some manner of waterfall project management. But we believe that the custom development should be handled in a more agile fashion. There needs to be flexibility in understanding changes to folks' understanding of their metadata as well as to their functional needs. So we're happy to sort of work in an agile way with you during especially the custom development phases and also the content migration phases. Most of our projects follow the same project structure to start. We spend about a month for a relatively straightforward project, or maybe up to 2 months or 3 months for a really complex project, working through the intricacies of your source content and preparing to do the modeling and mapping that's required to move your content from wherever it is, could be bpress or it could be Islandora 7 into Islandora 2.0. Then we take typically about a month to clean up the sheets and get the server set up and start doing test ingests. But by the end of the second month, in most cases, we're ready to do real ingests, unless there's, more complexity than we normally see in sort of one of our standard projects. And then we typically do custom development while the content migration is happening. Because most of the time custom development is for end user functionality as opposed to content migration functionality. So it can be built to be evaluated when the real content is in the system. It doesn't have to be a prerequisite to moving the content into the system. So somewhere in the 3 months and beyond range is when most of our projects launch. I would say typical is probably 4.5 or 5 months after we kick it off. So I'll click through the theme a little bit here. I think most folks are familiar with it, partly because it's sort of a sister theme to the Islandora starter theme that you can see on the sandbox. About a year ago, we contributed a snapshot of our theme and the install profile that builds it, or that builds around it to the foundation, and that's what the sandbox is running now. So we've kept iterating on that for a year or so, and I'm not going to highlight the differences between the two in this presentation, but I'm happy to chat about them if you have questions. So the way, one of the custom elements that we've set up is more of a Drupal thing than an Islandora thing. And that is on any page, repository item, homepage, article, anything, just a plain node, you can upload one of these banner images and it'll fill in behind the search bar. And the universal theme includes the search bar in that region of every page. If you don't upload a banner image, you just get a solid color from your theme's color scheme. And the site looks pretty good, but not as good as if you were uploading banner images, especially on key pages. All the colors and the branding elements can be modified through the web GUI. There's a nice Drupal module called the color module that provides a lot of functionality to allow the repository managers to tweak color and theme settings. I'll show some migration slides in a few minutes, but the object views, this is a sort of a standard template page. You can see that alternate to the header graphic background here behind the search box. But generally the way that our pages are laid out, there's a header, there's some breadcrumbs below that, the title for the object. This is a very long title. And social links are optional. Then the object viewer, and then as we click down, I guess you can't see it here, there's a download, a permalink, and metadata. Looks like the download, we'll see that on another slide. We missed about an inch here in the middle of this page. And if you all have been working with Islandora, you probably by now understand how the fields on the Drupal content definition map to the front end. So if you omit fields on the back end, you expect those to not show at all on the front end. And of course, that's the way it works here. Compound objects, you can see we've built it like a slideshow or a little exhibit format. And folks, our clients are using it for little mini exhibits, because in Islandora 2.0, an object can have any number of parents. So of course you can have your collections, and then you can go and create a compound object and just tag a few objects into it, and you have a little slideshow, a little digital exhibit. Here's that download link that I mentioned was missing in the other slide, and a permalink. The download button pops up this little interface, and this is customizable. This actually takes a bit of custom work depending on how you want to customize it, but you can have it offer for download any of the binaries, any of the media attached to the objects. You can use access control logic to determine which of those links are displayed and which are valid for logged in users or different user roles. With books, we are still using the OpenSeaDragon page viewer. This is something we would really like to upgrade to Mirador. In our view, the IIIF manifests are what need the work most. And when we're satisfied with that, then we'll swap in the Mirador viewer and also enable HOCR and then search within the objects functionality. So a lot of the questions we get, especially from Islandora 7 institutions, are what content models do you support? So right now we support collections, audio, basic and large images, binaries, books, compound objects, newspapers, and the associated newspaper subtypes, PDFs, which are pretty flexible. We've had some folks use them for sort of IR type content. Remote media, both video and audio, and just plain old uploaded video. Things that we are working on or that we don't believe are up to par exactly with Islandora 7 functionality are oral history, sort of side-by-side viewers. As I said, IIIF manifests could be handled better, especially to enable a really robust Mirador experience. And then IR content types. There's been some talk about reviving the old IR interest group and sort of pursuing Scholar for Islandora 2.0, and that's something we're excited about. As Dara mentioned in her talk earlier, works are not well supported currently in our implementation right now either. One of the functionalities, a simple little thing that folks really liked about our Islandora 7 theme, which is very similar to our Islandora 8 theme, was the search within collection available from any search widget. So we did re-implement that. I think that is one of these differences between what's in our base theme and what's in the sandbox. I don't think this is available in the sandbox. And search results really operate the way that you would expect Islandora 7 search results to operate. It requires so much customization in terms of tuning and finessing the facets as well as the search results that we think it's sort of, this is a good place where we are now, but we can definitely see room for improvement. For example, if you see the date created widget down here, these are displaying raw eDTF dates, and obviously something like a range slider would be much more preferred. Another of these areas that we're looking at improving. Basic pages, obviously, one of the main advantages of Islandora 2.0 is that it's so heavily integrated with Drupal. You're really building a Drupal site rather than in Islandora 7, you were building, there was a Drupal site and then there was an Islandora site bolted onto the side of it. So all of the theming and the functionality transfers over to just other content types that you create within your Drupal site. Another thing we wanted to make sure we really got right was access control. So we are using the Islandora access vocabulary and groups. This is very, very similar, if not identical, to what's in the install profile in the sandbox. So if you want to play around with this, you can definitely check it out there. But it provides the ability to establish user classes and then apply tags with overlapping names with the group names, and then you can provide logic to the groups about what the associated roles are able to do with the object. So you can set things up separately, controlling viewing metadata, viewing binaries, and downloading binaries. A little example of an object from Whitman, where the author chose to restrict their theses, and I believe you get a limited metadata view, or maybe you have no permissions at all related to seeing the binaries unless you log in. Another thing we worked on finessing was sort of a standard OAI PMH profile. Of course, everybody has customizations that they need, but that also may be a difference between how the sandbox is and the Born Digital based theme. If you want to learn about our migration process, I suggest watching Dara and Chris's presentation from earlier. When the videos are up, I'll definitely provide a link here. But as I said, the TLDR here is that we make extensive use of Workbench. I thought it might be interesting to look at a few migration examples. And I'm happy to go and click through these live sites if there are questions about them. So the first one is the Whitman Project. There are 4 or 5 presentations here at IslandoraCon on this. This was the IMLS funded pilot project. And it was a pretty good one in terms of coverage of content types, newspapers, photographs. We sort of landed on a light version of oral histories, videos, books, PDFs, complex access control logic, and compound objects. Another project that we recently undertook was the Wolfsonian at Florida International University. This is much more of just a discovery, a pure discovery engine. They have some interesting objects, and we implemented a version of the multi-file media that I know was discussed at length in the tech track yesterday. There are sort of 2 side-by-side collections here. There's a museum collection and then a number of library collections, both with interesting. Franklin and Marshall was one of our Islandora 7 projects that we then brought into Islandora 2.0. They do include IR functionality, IR types. We used the PDF type in Islandora 2.0 to provide the necessary theses functionality. There's also visual resources, so teaching slides. Many of our clients do have that use case as well, that there are, the old slide library collections are inside of their Islandora 2.0 repositories. Here's a couple of before and after. I had said that our theme is very much very similar to our Islandora 7 theme. So on the left is the Islandora 7 project, on the right is Islandora 2.0. When you start getting into objects, there are differences in the viewers, right? This is on the left, what the IAB book viewer, I think, and on the right, now this is maybe the PDF viewer. Here's newspapers. So again, on the left is the IAB, and on the right is the PDF. Other project recently live is the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. This was an Islandora 7 project that Dara and Chris started to collaborate on before Chris moved over to DGI. And then Dara ended up doing the migration. This was notable because of the large number of metadata fields. I know this was a concern early on in the Islandora 8 picture conversations about how many fields could Drupal 8 support. And we definitely stretched that number past what the conversations were 3 or 4 years ago. On the left is the Islandora 7 site, and on the right is the new Islandora 8 or 2.0 version. I still trip up on that. This was a custom object theme because the client wanted their metadata side by side with the object viewer, even though it made the object smaller. We have a half dozen more migrations in progress now, and we're booked up pretty well into next year. But we'd be delighted to talk to folks about their migrations if there are questions. I see a question in the back, Beatrice.
Hi, could you go back?
Sure. Let's go and find an oral histories object. Dara, are you able to direct me to an oral histories object?
Please repeat the question.
Oh, yes, sorry. The question was, can we look at the implementation of oral histories light here? So I'm just going to try to find an oral histories object in the Whitman collection. Actually, I think there's a top level collection for it. Here we go. Be able to use our genre audio, perhaps. Recordings. There we go. So really what this is an audio object. It doesn't have, as I said, it doesn't have the side-by-side transcript player functionality that most folks expect coming out of Islandora 7. Yeah.
Is that side by side something that?
So that's something that, so Dara's answering from the back of the room. We are currently working on that for another client right now to do the side-by-side viewer. And as Margaret said, I think there is a sort of a tabbed view that lets you paginate between the audio and the transcript. And we'll dig around for a link to share with that. Questions? I'm going to look at the chat here. Harry asked, could that banner image be a slideshow? Yes, if you want to break every accessibility rule.
That's why I added asking for a friend.
Well, thanks for the softball, Carrie. Yes, said we have our oral histories as compound objects, audio file is one child, transcript is another child. Recordings 11. Take one shot at this here. Yeah, two objects in collection. So that's going to be one is visible. Though. Oh no, we're on this object. Here's the audio. So Krista's hand.
Oh, I will.
Repeating for the folks online, Krista is saying that UT Scarborough has a different implementation. Can you say that player again?
Able player.
The able player they're using as to provide that sort of side-by-side dynamic transcript experience. And there's a presentation tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow morning. Islandora Light updates.
Tomorrow morning, the Islandora Light updates will include a slide or two at least on this. There are questions? Great. Thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for coming all the way to PEI, those of you who did, and for attending online. And I hope you all pick up some Born Digital stuff in the lobby, because I don't want to take it back on the plane with me. So please take a mug and whatever else.